Edit. The cruelest moment in a powerful man's life isn't when his enemies see him fall. It's when the woman who promised to love him decides he's no longer worth helping. Vincent Moretti's fingers scraped against the black marble floor as he tried to push himself upright for the second time. His right arm trembled violently beneath his weight. The muscles in his leg refused to answer. 30 minutes earlier, men across Philadelphia would have lowered their voices at the mention of his name. Now the white mafia boss lay half-dressed on the bathroom floor of his own mansion, his breathing ragged, one knee twisted beneath him, staring at a pair of cream-colored heels near the doorway. Claire Whitmore stood there with one hand wrapped around the handle of a matching suitcase. She hadn't screamed when Vincent collapsed. She hadn't called his guards. She had simply watched. Claire. His voice came out rougher than he intended. He planted his palm against the marble again. Cold stone. Shaking fingers. Nothing. His body rose 3 inches before his elbow buckled. Vincent crashed onto his shoulder. Kneeling beside him. The doctors said rehabilitation could take months, Claire whispered. Maybe longer. Your business is already unstable. People are talking. Vincent's dark eyes hardened. So that's what this is about. Don't. You like the man who could walk into a room and make everyone stand. Claire's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't deny it. Vincent almost laughed. Almost. Instead, he reached for the marble vanity and tried again. His leg folded beneath him instantly. His shoulder struck the cabinet. A glass shattered. Blood appeared across his palm. Claire stepped back. That single step hurt more than the fall. Vincent looked up at her from the floor. His eyes steady. Go. Claire hesitated. Vincent, go. She left. The suitcase wheels rolled across the hardwood outside. Soft. Rhythmic. Growing distant. Then the front door of the Moretti mansion closed. Vincent remained on the floor. He didn't call his guards. He didn't touch the emergency button hanging inches from his hand. He would rather bleed into the marble than let one of his men see their boss unable to stand. But Vincent didn't know someone had heard the fall. Down the hallway, Imani Brooks stood completely still beside a silver cleaning cart. The black maid had worked in the mansion for 8 months. 8 months of lowered eyes, quiet footsteps, and learning which doors were never hers to open. Vincent Moretti's priva. Vincent Moretti had spent his entire life teaching men that hesitation was weakness. Now, as Imani Brooks stepped through the forbidden doorway, he discovered how terrifying it felt when someone refused to hesitate for him. Get out. His voice cut across the bathroom like steel. Imani stopped just inside the room. Her dark eyes moved from the broken glass to the blood streaking Vincent's palm, then to the useless leg twisted beneath him. She did not gasp. She did not cover her mouth. Most importantly, she did not look at him with pity. Vincent hated her for that almost as much as he would have hated her if she had. Did you hear me? He asked. Yes, sir. Then leave. Imani closed the door behind her. Vincent's jaw tightened. I said leave. I heard you. She crossed the bathroom slowly, her shoes silent against the black marble. Vincent reached toward the emergency button beside the cabinet. His hand shook before he could touch it. Imani noticed. Of course she noticed. Vincent pulled his arm back. You enjoy this? The question stopped her. Sir, seeing me like this. His breathing was controlled now, but the anger beneath it was lethal. 8 months polishing floors and carrying trays while men stand when I enter a room. Now you find me crawling across one. Imani's expression did not change. You're not crawling. Vincent looked at his body on the floor. Choose your next words carefully. She lowered herself to one knee, still leaving several feet between them. You're trying to stand before your body is ready. Silence. Rain whispered against the windows. Vincent studied her, as if she were a problem someone had placed on his desk. What's the difference? Imani's eyes stayed steady. Crawling means you've accepted the floor. Vincent froze mid-breath. No one spoke to him that way. Not his guards. Not his lawyers. Certainly not a maid. Imani reached for a clean towel and placed it on the marble between them. Your hand is bleeding. Don't touch me. I wasn't going to. That answer irritated him more than obedience would have. Imani sat back on her heels. She waited. 10 seconds. 20. Vincent expected her to call someone. She didn't. He expected her to offer empty encouragement, the soft lies nurses used in the hospital. You're doing great. Stay positive. One day at a time. She said nothing. Finally, Vincent looked at the towel. Then at her. What exactly are you doing? Waiting. For what? For you to decide whether your pride hurts more than your hand. His eyes turned cold. Imani's heartbeat accelerated, but she kept her face calm. She knew men like Vincent. Not mafia bosses. Proud men. Men whose bodies had betrayed them and who mistook help for humiliation. She had watched her father throw a dinner plate across a bedroom because she offered to feed him. She had watched him refuse a wheelchair until his knees split open from falling. Anger was easier than grief. Orders were easier than fear. Vincent slowly reached for the towel. Imani did not smile. That mattered. He pressed the white cloth against his palm. Blood bloomed through the fabric. Now what? He asked bitterly. Imani looked toward the wheelchair near the doorway. Now I help you up. No, then we wait. Vincent stared at her. You have somewhere else to be? The west hallway needs dusting. For the first time since Claire's suitcase rolled away, something almost changed in Vincent's face. Not a smile. He had forgotten how. But the anger loosened. Barely. Imani moved closer. I need your left arm around my shoulder. Vincent's expression hardened again. I said don't touch me. She stopped. Then tell me how long you'd like to stay on the floor. His eyes flashed. You could be fired before sunset. Yes, sir. You could leave this mansion with nothing. Yes, sir. And you're still standing there. Imani looked at him. Her voice softened, but it did not weaken. I'm not here to watch you fall, Mr. Moretti. She extended her hand. I'm here because you shouldn't have to stay on the floor. The bathroom went silent. Vincent looked at her hand. Dark skin. Small fingers. No diamond ring. No expensive bracelet. The hand of a woman he had passed hundreds of times without truly seeing. Claire had worn a $200,000 engagement ring when she walked away. Imani wore nothing. Yet she stayed. Vincent swallowed. Then, slowly, he placed his hand in hers. Imani moved immediately, one arm beneath his shoulder, his left arm around her neck. On 3, she said. I give the orders in this house. Then order us to 3. Vincent almost glared at her. 3. They moved. Pain tore through his leg. His breath broke. Imani staggered under his weight, but did not let go. 1 second. 2. Then Vincent collapsed into the wheelchair. His chest rose violently. Sweat covered his forehead. Imani stepped back. No applause. No praise. She simply picked up the broken glass. Vincent watched her. What's your name? Imani's hand stopped. 8 months. She had worked under his roof for 8 months. Imani Brooks, sir. Vincent repeated it quietly. Imani. She looked at him. For the first time, Vincent Moretti was not looking at a maid. He was looking at the only person who had seen him powerless and stayed. And neither of them knew yet how much that decision would cost. 3 days later, Vincent Moretti returned from the hospital in a wheelchair, and the mansion learned how quickly power could change shape. The black armored SUV stopped beneath the stone portico at exactly 4 in the afternoon. Usually, Vincent stepped from the vehicle before his guards could open the door. That day, 2 men unfolded a steel ramp. No one spoke. Luca Hayes, Vincent's security chief, stared at the ground as the wheelchair rolled forward. The household staff stood in a careful line beneath the crystal chandelier. Chefs, drivers, cleaners, men who had carried weapons for Vincent for 15 years. Every pair of eyes moved toward him, then away. Vincent noticed everyone. If anyone has something to say, he said quietly, say it. Silence. His voice was still cold, still controlled, but the wheelchair changed how the room heard it. Vincent hated them for that. He hated the polished wheels beneath his hands, the medication in his coat pocket, the weakness crawling through his right leg like a secret his enemies were waiting to discover. Most of all, he hated the empty space beside him where Claire used to stand. Move, Vincent ordered. The line broke instantly. People disappeared into hallways. Doors closed. The mansion breathed again. Only Imani remained. She stood beside the staircase holding a folded stack of white towels. Vincent looked at her. She looked back. No lowered eyes. No pity. You too, he said. Yes, sir. She walked away. For reasons Vincent could not explain, that irritated him. By sunset, Dr. Ethan Caldwell had transformed Vincent's private sitting room into something that resembled a rehabilitation clinic. Resistance bands, parallel bars, medication charts, a silver bell placed beside Vincent's bed. Vincent stared at the bell. Remove it. Wounds in men who screamed less than Vincent's silence. He removed it. At 7, Imani brought dinner. Roasted chicken, potatoes, vegetables cut into exact pieces. Vincent glanced at the tray. Take it away. She did. The next morning, Breakfast arrived. Away. Lunch. Away. Dinner. Away. Imani never argued. On the third night, she entered the room and found the untouched whiskey glass beside an empty bottle. The bed was empty. She heard breathing near the windows. Vincent stood between the bed and the tall glass doors, one hand gripping a mahogany table. His right leg shook violently. Mr. Moretti. Leave. Imani set down the tray. Vincent moved one foot, then another. Sweat darkened the collar of his shirt. 10 feet separated him from the window. 10 feet. A man who once crossed cities to kill his enemies was losing a war against 10 feet of carpet. His knee buckled. The whiskey glass struck the floor first. Vincent followed. Glass exploded across the hardwood. His palm landed directly on a shard. Blood came instantly. Damn it. Imani moved forward. Don't touch me. She stopped. Vincent sat among the broken glass, chest heaving, blood running between his fingers. Rage burned across his face. Call Luca. Imani looked toward the door. No, Vincent slowly lifted his head. What did you say? You don't want Luca? I gave you an order. You want someone to see you angry instead of afraid. Vincent froze. Imani's heartbeat pounded against her ribs. She knew she had crossed a line. Maybe several. But she also knew that look. Her father had worn it the night he fell beside his bed and screamed at her for trying to help. Fear wearing anger's clothes. Imani lowered herself to the floor, several feet away. She did not touch Vincent. She did not reach for the glass. She simply Saturday, what are you doing? He asked. Nothing. Then leave. No, the word hung between them. Vincent's eyes became lethal. People have died for less disrespect. Imani nodded once. Probably. Silence. You're not afraid of me? I am. That answer surprised him. Then why are you still here? Imani looked at the blood on his hand. Because fear doesn't always mean you leave. Claire's suitcase wheels echoed through Vincent's memory. Soft. Rhythmic. Growing distant. His face changed. Imani saw it and looked away, giving him the privacy of pretending she hadn't. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The fire cracked softly in the stone fireplace. Finally, Vincent spoke. The glass. Imani reached for the medical kit beneath the cabinet. May I? Vincent stared at her hands, then slowly opened his bleeding palm. Imani moved closer. She cleaned the wound without praise, without questions, without telling him everything would be fine. Vincent watched her work. Why don't you tell me to keep trying? He asked. Imani wrapped the bandage once. Twice. Because you already know how to try. She tied it gently. You just don't know how to fail in front of someone yet. Vincent stopped breathing for half a second. Imani stood and began collecting the broken glass. Behind her, the most feared man in Philadelphia remained on the floor. But for the first time since his body betrayed him, Vincent Moretti did not order the witness to leave. Imani Brooks had learned years ago that the hardest part of caring for a broken man was not lifting his body. It was convincing him that being lifted did not make him less of a man. The morning after Vincent fell beside the window, she found him awake before sunrise. Pale blue light spilled through the curtains. His wheelchair faced the garden, untouched coffee cooling beside him. You're early, he said. You're awake. That's not an answer. Imani placed the breakfast tray on the table. Neither was yours. Vincent glanced at her. 2 weeks ago, that tone would have ended someone's employment. Now he simply looked back toward the glass. Outside, rainwater clung to bare branches. Caldwell says I should be walking farther. Dr. Caldwell says many things. You disagree with my doctor? No, Imani adjusted the tray. I disagree with the way everyone celebrates when you move 3 feet. Vincent turned. Explain. She hesitated, then remembered a narrow apartment in West Philadelphia. A rusted radiator. A hospital bed pushed against a wall because there had been nowhere else to put it. Her father, Marcus Brooks, had been 57 when a stroke took the strength from the left side of his body. Before that morning, he drove a city bus for 29 years. He knew every cracked street and every impatient horn. After the stroke, people spoke to him slowly, as if paralysis had damaged his intelligence. Friends visited with balloons. Church members called him brave. The woman who had promised to marry him stayed 6 weeks. Then she left a note beside the microwave. Imani was 22. She became daughter, nurse, cook, and witness. She learned how to change sheets beneath a man who could not turn himself, how to wash his hair without letting him see her exhaustion. how to stand outside the bathroom door while he cried because he could no longer button his own shirt. One night, Marcus threw a plate at the wall. "Stop looking at me like I'm dying," he shouted. Imani had cried in the kitchen where he couldn't see. The next morning, she stopped praising him. When he lifted a spoon, she didn't clap. When he moved his foot, she didn't call anyone. She simply asked what he wanted for dinner. Marcus began trying again. "My father had a stroke," Imani said. Vincent's gaze sharpened. She rarely spoke about herself. "How old were you?" 22. "Where was your mother?" "Dead." The word was quiet. Vincent said nothing. His friends stopped visiting. Imani continued. The woman he was going to marry left. Vincent's fingers tightened against the wheelchair arm. Imani noticed and wished she had chosen different words. But truth had already entered the room. "How long did you care for him?" "For years." "Did he walk again?" Imani looked toward the garden. 17 steps. Vincent waited. 17. That was his record. And then, her eyes lowered. His second stroke killed him 3 days later. The room went still. Vincent looked at the woman standing beside his breakfast. 8 months under his roof. He had known her uniform size because payroll listed it. He had known her weekly salary because he approved household budgets. He had never known she once spent 4 years teaching a man how to stand. A knock sounded. Dr. Caldwell entered carrying a clipboard. "Morning. Ready to make progress." Vincent's face hardened immediately. "No," Caldwell sighed. "Vincent, give us a minute." The doctor paused, then stepped into the hallway. Imani began to leave. "Not you." She stopped. Vincent stared at the parallel bars across the room. "What did you do when your father refused therapy?" "I stopped asking him to do therapy." "That's helpful." "I put his coffee across the room." Vincent looked at her. "That's cruel." He thought so. A faint sound escaped Vincent. Almost a laugh. Imani smiled before she could stop herself. Later that afternoon, Dr. Caldwell found Imani outside the rehabilitation room. Through the glass, Vincent struggled between the parallel bars. One step. Pause. Another. His face twisted with pain. Caldwell watched carefully. "He's pushing too hard." Imani folded a towel. "No. He's finally pushing for himself." "You seem very certain." "Don't praise him for trying," she said. "Give him something worth walking toward." Neither of them noticed Vincent had stopped moving. He stood between the bars, breathing heavily. He had heard every word. His eyes shifted toward Imani through the glass. She wasn't smiling at his progress. She wasn't waiting to applaud. She simply returned to folding towels. And Vincent Moretti suddenly understood something that unsettled him more than weakness. Imani Brooks was not trying to save the mafia boss. She was protecting the dignity of the man trapped inside him. By the end of the second week, Vincent Moretti could cross 12 feet between the parallel bars, but somewhere beyond the mansion gates. Men were already measuring the distance between his weakness and his empire. The first sign came at breakfast. Luca Hayes entered the dining room carrying a black folder and the expression of a man who preferred bullets to bad news. Vincent sat at the end of the long table, his wheelchair positioned where the carved oak chair used to be. Imani poured coffee without looking toward the folder. 3 collections were delayed, Lucas said. 2 crews are asking questions. Vincent lifted his cup. His right hand trembled. Coffee touched the saucer. Lucas saw it. His eyes dropped immediately. Vincent placed the cup down. "What questions?" "Whether you're still making decisions." The room became cold. "And what did you tell them?" "That the next man who asks loses his tongue." Vincent's mouth almost curved. "Good." Imani quietly replaced the stained saucer. Vincent washed her hands. No hesitation. No pretending she had missed the tremor. She simply gave him a clean one. Luca opened the folder. "There's something else. Someone outside our circle knows about your condition." Vincent's expression changed. "How much?" "Enough to know you can't walk without assistance." Silence. Rain pressed against the tall windows. Vincent looked toward the security cameras mounted beyond the garden walls. For years, his enemies had studied his routes, his cars, his guards. Now they were studying his body. "Find the leak," he said. Luca nodded and left. Imani reached for the coffee pot. "You should cancel therapy today." Vincent looked at her sharply. "Excuse me. You're angry." "I'm always angry. Today you're distracted. And that concerns you?" Imani met his eyes. "Only if you fall on me." Vincent stared at her. Then a quiet laugh escaped him. One sound. Brief. Almost unfamiliar. Imani froze. So did Vincent. He had not laughed since before the hospital. Neither mentioned it. That afternoon, he entered the rehabilitation room anyway. 1 step. 2. 5. His legs shook. Dr. Caldwell told him to stop. Vincent continued. Across the room, Imani polished the brass handle of a cabinet. She did not count his steps. Mansion vanished into darkness. 1 second later, emergency lights painted the hallways red. Vincent woke to the sound of alarms. He reached for his phone. No signal. Somewhere downstairs, men shouted. Then came gunfire. 3 sharp bursts near the front gate. Vincent pushed himself into the wheelchair. His hands slipped against the wheels. Luca, no answer. Smoke touched his nose. Thin at first. Electrical, then stronger. Vincent turned toward the hallway. Orange light flickered beneath the door. On the first floor, guards rushed toward the gate, believing the gunfire was the attack. On the second, an electrical panel exploded behind a locked service wall. Flames climbed silently into the ceiling. And on the third floor, Vincent Moretti sat alone. The elevator was dead. The staircase waited 40 feet away. He rolled into the hallway as smoke gathered above the chandeliers. His wheelchair stopped at the top of the stairs. 36 marble steps. Vincent stared down. For the first time since the hospital, he did not feel anger. He felt the simple, terrible mathematics of helplessness. Behind him, glass shattered. Heat rushed through the corridor. Vincent closed his eyes. Then footsteps came through the smoke. Fast. Uneven. Someone coughed. Mr. Moretti. Vincent opened his eyes. Imani emerged from the red darkness wearing her nightclothes beneath an open house coat. Her black skin streaked with ash. She saw the stairs, saw the wheelchair, saw the fire moving closer. Vincent's voice was calm. Go downstairs. Imani stepped toward him. Now. That's an order, he said. She stopped directly in front of him. Then she removed her house coat and tied it tightly around her waist. Good, Imani whispered. Because I'm about to disobey you. And somewhere below them, the fire reached the second floor. The first step nearly killed them both. Imani locked the wheelchair brakes and moved behind Vincent as smoke rolled across the ceiling in thick black waves. Put your arms around my shoulders. Vincent stared at the staircase. 36 marble steps. The fire behind them cracked louder. No, Mr. Moretti, you weigh half what I do. Then try not to be difficult. Even with death climbing the walls, Vincent almost looked offended. Imani crouched in front of him. Your arms. Now. A burning beam collapsed somewhere down the corridor. Vincent finally obeyed. His left arm wrapped around Imani's shoulder. His right barely held. Imani pulled him forward. His weight struck her back like falling stone. Her knees slammed against the marble. Pain exploded through them. Vincent's body slipped. Stop. Imani gritted her teeth. I'm fine. You're bleeding. So are you. She dragged him toward the first step. Vincent looked down. For a man who had ordered executions without blinking, the staircase suddenly seemed like the most dangerous thing he had ever faced. Leave me. Imani froze. Go downstairs, he said. Luca will come. Luca is at the gate. Then Caldwell. I haven't seen him. Imani. His voice changed. No command. No threat. Just a man's name for the woman standing between him and fire. You cannot carry me down there. Imani looked over her shoulder. Flames reflected in her dark eyes. My father weighed 230 pounds. This isn't your father. I know. Then stop trying to save him through me. The words landed hard. Imani's face tightened. For 1 second, Vincent regretted them. Then she turned fully toward him. You think that's why I'm here? Vincent said nothing. My father died, Mr. Moretti. I buried him. I said goodbye. Smoke made her cough. You are not him. Then why? Imani stared at him. Behind Vincent, the wallpaper caught fire. Orange light moved toward them. Because someone already left you. Vincent stopped breathing. Claire. Cream-colored heels. Suitcase wheels. A door closing. Imani tightened his arms around her shoulders. I won't. The fire roared. Then she moved. 1 step. Vincent's leg dragged behind him. 2nd step. Imani's bare foot slipped. Her hip struck the railing. 3rd. 4th. Vincent felt every tremor in her body. Put me down. No, that's an order. You've used that one. 10 steps. Imani's knees were bleeding through her nightclothes. 15. Heat pressed against their backs. Vincent tried to push with his left leg, taking part of his weight. It barely helped. At step 20, Imani collapsed. Vincent struck the stairs beside her. For several seconds, neither moved. Imani. She coughed. Still here. Vincent looked down at the remaining steps, then at his own hands. One strong, one shaking. Get in front of me. What? Get in front. Imani stared. Vincent. It was the first time she had used his first name. He heard it. So did she. Neither corrected it. Vincent gripped the railing with his left hand. You guide my leg. I lower myself. You'll fall. Falling is an event. Imani's eyes widened. Vincent looked at her. Quitting is a decision. For the first time that night, she smiled. They moved together. Ugly. Slow. Desperate. Imani guided his useless leg, while Vincent lowered his body one step at a time. His palms tore open. Her shoulders shook. The ceiling above the third floor collapsed just as they reached the bottom. A wave of heat exploded down the staircase. Imani threw herself over Vincent. Glass shattered. Alarm screamed. Then hands grabbed them. Luca. 2 guards. Dr. Caldwell shouting for oxygen. Vincent was lifted onto a stretcher. Through blurred vision, he searched the smoke. Imani. No answer. Where is she? Luca looked behind him. Imani lay unconscious beside the staircase, one hand still wrapped around the fabric of Vincent's shirt. Vincent reached toward her. His right hand shook violently. Take her first. Caldwell stared at him. Vincent, your lungs. Take her first. The room went silent for half a second. Everyone there knew Vincent Moretti. They knew the man who survived because he always chose himself before anyone else. But that man was gone. As the medics lifted Imani, Vincent watched her disappear through the smoke. And for the first time in 20 years, the Mafia boss prayed. Not for his empire. Not for revenge. Not even for his own life. He prayed for the black maid who had carried him through fire because everyone else had already walked away. Vincent Moretti had seen men die for him before, but none of them had ever made him wonder whether he deserved to live. He sat outside the mansion's temporary medical room just after sunrise, wrapped in a gray hospital blanket. His wheelchair angled toward a glass door. Beyond it, Imani Brooks lay beneath white sheets. A bandage covered her left shoulder. Another circled her palm. Her knees were wrapped in gauze. The woman who had dragged a white mafia boss through fire now looked impossibly small beneath the hospital lights. Vincent had not moved in 3 hours. Your oxygen levels are stable, Dr. Caldwell said behind him. You need rest. Vincent kept watching Imani. When will she wake? I don't know. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Caldwell stepped beside him. Smoke inhalation. Exhaustion. Burns. She carried your weight down half a staircase, Vincent. His voice hardened. She could have died. Vincent's fingers closed around the wheelchair arm. But she didn't. Caldwell looked through the glass. Not because you ordered her to survive. Silence. Vincent turned slowly. Men had disappeared for less. Caldwell knew it. Vincent knew it. But the threat never came. The old machinery inside Vincent seemed too tired to move. She saved my life, he said. Yes. Why? Caldwell studied him. Maybe because she believed it had value. Vincent looked away. No one had ever spoken to him about the value of his life. Its price, yes. Enemies had placed numbers on his head. Allies calculated what his survival was worth to their businesses. Claire had measured him by power, mobility, appearance. But value was different. Value existed when there was nothing useful left. Vincent stared at his shaking right hand. Leave us. Caldwell hesitated. She needs quiet. Then stopped talking. The doctor sighed and walked away. Vincent remained. Morning light slowly filled the damaged mansion. The smell of smoke clung to the walls. Somewhere downstairs, workers moved burned furniture and covered broken windows. Vincent heard none of it. His eyes stayed on Imani. At 8:17, her fingers moved. Vincent leaned forward. Her eyes opened slowly. Confusion crossed her face. Then pain. She turned her head and saw him through the glass. Vincent entered before Caldwell could stop him. His wheelchair rolled beside her bed. Imani blinked. You look terrible. Vincent stared at her, then laughed. Quietly. You nearly died. So did you. I told you to leave. You say many things. Vincent's smile disappeared. Why did you come back for me? Imani's expression softened. I already told you. No. You gave me a sentence on a staircase. His voice lowered. I want the truth. Imani looked toward the window. The truth is I knew what that floor felt like. Vincent waited. Not the marble, she whispered. The helplessness. Her eyes returned to him. I watched people stop seeing my father as a man. They saw his chair, his medication, his accidents, his weakness. She swallowed. and I watched him disappear while he was still alive. Vincent said nothing. When I found you on that bathroom floor, I recognized the look in your eyes. What look? The one that says you'd rather die than be seen needing someone. Vincent froze. Imani's eyes stayed steady. I couldn't save my father from that feeling. A tear moved down her cheek. Maybe I couldn't watch it happen again. Vincent looked at the tear, then at the bandages covering her hands. Something broke inside him. Quietly, without violence. He turned his face away, but not before Imani saw the wetness in his eyes. Vincent Moretti had not cried since he was 17 years old. He had buried his father without tears, his brother without tears. Men had put bullets through his body and heard him laugh. But now, beside a hospital bed, the mafia boss lowered his head. Imani reached toward him. Her injured hand stopped halfway. Vincent saw it. Slowly, he placed his hand beneath hers. No orders. No pride. Just skin against skin. You didn't save a mafia boss, he whispered. Imani watched him. Vincent's voice nearly broke. You saved the man everyone else decided wasn't worth staying for. The room went silent. And outside that room, Luca Hayes stood holding a security report recovered from the damaged surveillance system. A report containing one name connected to the leak about Vincent's condition. Claire Whitmore. Luca looked through the glass at Vincent holding Imani's hand. Then he closed the folder. For 5 more minutes, he decided, the truth could wait. Claire Whitmore returned to the Moretti mansion, wearing white, as if innocence were something a woman could put on before entering a room. The fire had been out for 6 days. Plastic sheets covered the damaged eastern wing. The smell of smoke still lived inside the walls. Vincent sat in the main library beside the fireplace, his wheelchair positioned beneath the portrait of his grandfather. Luca stood near the door holding the black security folder. Imani was upstairs recovering. Vincent had insisted she take the largest guest suite. Imani had argued for 11 minutes. Vincent had won by threatening to move her bed himself. Neither mentioned that he still could not walk across a room alone. She's here, Lucas said. Vincent looked at the fire. Bring her in. Claire entered slowly. Cream coat. Pearl earrings. Perfect hair. Vincent remembered watching those same heels disappear from the bathroom doorway. Now she stopped when she saw him. Vincent. He said nothing. Claire's eyes moved to the wheelchair. This time, she hid the disappointment better. I heard about the fire. Did you? I was terrified. Luca's jaw tightened. Vincent noticed. Sit. Claire obeyed. For years, men had confessed crimes in that library because Vincent's silence frightened them more than his questions. Claire lasted 12 seconds. I know how this looks. Vincent glanced at Luca. The folder landed on the table. Photographs. Phone records. Bank transfers. Security timestamps. Claire's face lost color. You told someone about my condition, Vincent said. Vincent, you told Nathan Voss I couldn't walk. He asked questions. And you answered. I was scared. Vincent's expression remained still. So was I. Claire froze. It was perhaps the first time she had ever heard him admit it. I was lying on a bathroom floor, Vincent continued. My body wouldn't move. The woman I planned to marry stood 6 feet away. His voice lowered. I asked for 3 words. Claire's lips trembled. Help me up. The library went silent. You left. I didn't know how to handle it. Neither did she. Claire looked confused. Vincent turned toward the staircase. Footsteps came slowly from the hallway. Imani entered wearing a simple dark dress, one shoulder still bandaged beneath the fabric. Her black skin carried faint healing marks from the fire. Claire stared. Recognition came slowly. The maid. Vincent's face changed. Not anger. Something colder. Her name is Imani Brooks. Claire swallowed. I didn't mean, that's the problem. Vincent rolled closer to the table. You never mean anything when the person in front of you has less power. Imani stopped near the doorway. Mr. Moretti, I can come back. Stay. Claire looked between them. Vincent, please. Whatever happened with the leak, I can explain. You already did. I loved you. Vincent stared at her. You loved standing beside me. Claire began crying. Once, those tears would have changed his decisions. Now he only remembered blood spreading across white marble while she stepped backward. What are you going to do to me? She whispered. Luca looked at Vincent. So did Imani. Everyone in the room knew what the old Vincent Moretti would have done. Claire knew it too. Her hands shook. Vincent studied her fear. Then he looked at Imani. He remembered her sitting on the floor among broken glass. Fear doesn't always mean you leave. Something inside him settled. Nothing. Claire blinked. What? You're free to go. Luca's head turned sharply. Claire stared at Vincent. That's it. No, Vincent pushed the folder toward her. Every account connected to my businesses is closed to you. The apartment in Manhattan returns to my ownership. The wedding contracts are canceled. Claire's face collapsed. Vincent, you wanted the man who could give you everything. His eyes stayed steady. You abandoned the man who needed one hand. Claire looked at Imani. For a second, shame moved across her face. And she gets what? Vincent answered without hesitation. Respect. The word filled the library. Imani's eyes lowered. Not from submission. From emotion. Claire stood. No guards touched her. No one threatened her. She walked toward the door alone. Before leaving, she turned. Vincent was no longer looking at her. He was watching Imani struggle slightly with her injured shoulder. Imani, he said. She looked at him. Sit down before Caldwell blames me. He already blames you for everything. A quiet laugh moved through the room. Even Lucas smiled. Claire stood forgotten at the doorway. Then she left. The door closed. Vincent looked at the empty space for a moment. No satisfaction. No revenge. Only silence. Imani moved beside him. You let her go. I did. The old Vincent Moretti wouldn't have. He looked up at her. The old Vincent Moretti was left on a bathroom floor. Imani's eyes softened. Vincent turned toward the fire. Maybe that's where he belonged. Imani shook her head. No, Vincent looked at her. Maybe that's where he needed to fall. The room went silent. And for once, Vincent Moretti did not argue. 3 months later, Vincent Moretti stood without a wheelchair behind him, and no one in the room dared breathe. Morning sunlight poured through the tall windows of the restored rehabilitation room, turning the polished floor gold. The fire damage was gone. New walls, new glass, new paint. But Vincent had refused to replace the parallel bars. He said they reminded him of something. He never explained what. Dr. Caldwell stood near the door with his arms folded. Luca watched from the hallway. Imani Brooks leaned against the far wall, her hands resting quietly in front of her. The burns on her shoulder had healed into pale scars. Vincent held a black cane in his left hand. His right hand no longer shook every minute. Only when he was tired. Today he was exhausted. That's enough, Caldwell said. Vincent ignored him. Vincent, you say my name too much. Because you ignore medical advice too often. Imani lowered her eyes to hide a smile. Vincent saw it. Something funny, Ms. Brooks? No, sir. You're a terrible liar. I've had a difficult employer. Luca coughed into his fist. Caldwell looked at the ceiling. Vincent almost smiled. Almost. Then his eyes returned to the distance ahead. 12 feet. The same distance he had once failed to cross. Imani stood at the other end. Vincent tightened his grip on the cane. Move, he said. Imani raised an eyebrow. Excuse me. You're distracting me. 3 months ago, Dr. Caldwell was told to give you something worth walking toward. Vincent froze. Caldwell suddenly became very interested in his clipboard. Luca disappeared into the hallway. Vincent looked at Imani. Her dark eyes were warm. Steady. The same eyes that had found him bleeding on black marble. The same eyes that had looked through smoke and decided not to leave. Vincent planted the cane forward. 1 step. His right leg dragged slightly. 2nd step. Pain tightened his jaw. 3rd. Imani did not clap. She did not encourage him. She simply waited. 5 steps. 8. Vincent's breathing became heavy. Sweat formed along his forehead. The cane slipped. It struck the floor with a sharp crack. Vincent's body tilted. Imani moved instantly. Wait. She stopped. Vincent's right knee trembled. His arms lifted slightly for balance. Every instinct in Imani told her to cross the room. She remained still. Vincent looked down at his feet. For one terrible second, he saw the bathroom floor again. Black marble. Blood. Claire's heels. He heard suitcase wheels rolling away. Then another memory came. A woman sitting several feet from him among broken glass. Not touching him. Not leaving. Vincent slowly straightened. 1 breath. Then another. He took a step without the cane. Caldwell's mouth opened. No sound came. Vincent took another. His legs shook. He continued. Imani's eyes filled with tears, but she refused to let them fall. Vincent reached her. For several seconds, they simply stood facing each other. The most feared white mafia boss in Philadelphia and the black maid he had once passed in hallways without knowing her name. You stayed when I couldn't stand, Vincent said. Imani looked at him. Yes. Why? She smiled softly. You still need that answer? Vincent glanced toward the cane lying behind him. Maybe. Imani stepped closer. Because dignity doesn't disappear when strength does. Vincent's eyes lowered. Months ago, those words would have sounded like weakness. Now he understood their weight. He looked back at her. Then what happens now? Imani tilted her head. Now, I can walk. Barely. Vincent frowned. You enjoy disrespecting me. Only during working hours. A laugh escaped him. Full this time. Warm. Human. The sound filled the room. Caldwell smiled. Luca looked away, pretending not to. Vincent's laughter faded. His expression softened. Imani. Yes. I don't need a maid. Her smile disappeared. Vincent saw the fear cross her face and immediately hated himself for the sentence. That's not what I meant. You're getting worse at words. Apparently. He took a breath. I need someone in this house who remembers who I am when I forget. Imani stared at him. Vincent continued. Not an employee. Not a nurse. His voice lowered. Someone who stays because she chooses to. Silence filled the golden room. Imani looked at the man before her. Not the empire. Not the name. Not the violence whispered through Philadelphia. Just Vincent. A man who had fallen. A man who had been abandoned. A man who had learned that power could force 1,000 people to stand beside him, but it could never force one person to stay. Imani reached down and picked up his cane. She handed it to him. Then stand, Mr. Moretti. Vincent took the cane. Their fingers touched. He smiled. And that day, the world remembered what dignity looks like.